All right, we are ready to, believe it or not, start talking about the 2024 offseason in the NFL here on the Our Lads Football Network as we, big surprise, start our start our off-season coverage with the Carolina Panthers. But I say
Am I really the first one? Am I really the first one?
You're the first one, Rashad.
Come on, man. Are you going to draft? Are you going to draft order? Is that what you're doing?
No, actually, that was.
I was going to say if that's the case, I should have been last because we don't have a first round pick.
That's true.
I digress.
No, but you're first because you're the best. That's why. So,
okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
So, yeah, it's another year. We haven't talked since just before the season began, and we had a lot of hopes, and all those hopes were dashed once again. But let's talk about the Panthers, and we're going to get into the draft and free agency and so forth. I know the season's not over, but it is for the Carolina Panthers. So the fans are already thinking about the offseason. That's the way it is. That's why we want to get a jump start on this. So Rashad, of course, from Panther Nation Podcast. By the way, Dave, your co-host, he had a pretty good run on our Dynasty. I don't know if he kept you up to date with his involvement on our Dynasty Fantasy League this year, but it was fun having Dave on.
How do you do, man? Because he called himself a fantasy guru. I don't know about that.
Yeah, he was good. He was competitive. It was cool. He was right there. Matter of fact, let me see. What is his?
I don't know. I need to see the facts. I don't know.
Yeah, let me go ahead. I'm going to punch it up right here on the screen. You can't see it, but I'm going to punch it up on the screen here so I can get the standings. Where are they? Where are the standings? League. You know what? Let's see. No, they're not letting me do it on there, so I'm going to go ahead and just do it myself and then let you know. So let's see. Team. League. There it is. Okay, he finished. What was the name of his team? Oh, he was sixth, and that was good enough for a playoff spot. So he finished one of the top 6 teams out of the 12-team league, and again, it's dynasty, so it's not all just about this year. And the name of his team, do you want to guess what he chose for the name of his team?
I don't know. It's something with rap because he always names his teams after rap lyrics or something with rap. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is it?
The Listening.
Yeah, not surprised.
Okay. So that's what that is then? That's a rap song?
I don't know what it is, but that's Dave's thing, man. He always uses rap albums or lyrics for his fantasy teams.
So he did pretty good. By the way, his team, just so you know, he had Will Levis, a quarterback, not good, and Russell. Who else was his quarterback? And Russell Wilson. This was his last team last week when he went into the playoffs. Obviously, his season was over. He had Russell Wilson and Will Levis. Again, keeping in mind Levis is his future. So let's see who stands out here that looks interesting. He's got Isaiah Pacheco at running back. He has Hopkins at wide receiver, Kittle at tight end, Higgins at wide receiver, Diggs at wide receiver, Robinson from Atlanta, and McCaffrey. He's got Christian McCaffrey, running back. So
that's a solid squad.
Yeah. He's got Sanders. He's got your boy Sanders on the bench.
Not good.
He's on the bench, though.
Deserve to be on the team.
On the bench.
Doesn't deserve a roster spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought he had a pretty good year this year, statistically speaking. Really? No?
Miles Sanders? Are we talking about the same Sanders?
Let me see here. Well, you know what it is? Wait, where is it? Miles Sanders. Why does it look like he actually statistically... Oh, I guess
he did not. No, he did not.
Who am I thinking about? Who's your number one running back?
Chuba Hubbard is our
Chuba Hubbard is what I'm thinking about. That's right.
He's having a great season.
That's what I was. Yeah, Chuba. That was surprising. Were you surprised that Chuba really came out and became like a guy that you believe could he be? Is he a guy that you're going to say, yeah, we can win with him? Number one.
No, well, so I'm gonna be honest. Chuba, I was pretty critical of him. His first couple of seasons. This is his third season with the Carolina Panthers, and he's doing great. I mean, he did kind of look great at the back end of last year when we had the run game going, when he was with Deonta Foreman. With that tag team going on, they looked great. And now Chuba, he basically took the running back number one position from Miles Sanders because Miles Sanders was not performing well, and he basically took it from him. So Am I surprised a little bit? Some people are not in Panther Nation, but he did. He earned it. He's playing well. I think he's like 250 something yards away from 1,000 yard season. Only 30 yards away from 1,000 all-purpose yards. So he's playing. He's playing really, really well.
So, like, if we started there at running back, then, and I'm taking a look also. And by the way, we're going to use, let me go ahead and throw us on here. Hold on a second. See, we're going to use Over the Cap. And you can use the spot tracker Over the Cap. Those are the top two free agency sites if anybody out there hasn't already figured that out yet. So we'll use Over the Cap for this podcast. And here are all the players, the current free agent 2024 players. And then we also will throw in from Tankathon. These are the current draft picks from Tankathon. And again, no first round draft pick. So the first pick will be 33rd. So it's right there. First pick of the second round as of now. And then here's all the other picks: third, fourth, 2/5, and a sixth. I guess I got to ask you then. You think Carolina's going to try to find a way to get into the first round, or are they going to do all their damage in free agency this offseason?
I mean, it's a great question. I think there's so many more questions to answer before you get to that question. Like, who's going to be the GM? Who's going to be the
That's
head
true.
coach?
That's true.
So until we know that, it's kind
Yeah.
of difficult. I would personally say they would stand pat at 33 and just take the best player available. Hopefully, that player would be an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. I think that's where we should probably focus our attention. But yeah, we don't have assets to trade a backup into the first. So I wouldn't do it. I mean, unless you saw a guy, because got to be honest, that first round pick is important. People don't tend to think about the fifth year option that comes along with that. So it is important to get that fifth year option. So if they do see somebody that they want, they could trade back up and make a long term play to add that fifth year option and make that work. But I don't see it. I don't see that happening, to be honest with you.
All right. So let's start there, though. Let's start with management and so forth. We don't need to talk about the owner right now. So
Yeah, that's the place we should start on how
I
bad
know.
he is.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
that's not changing. That's the problem.
it's not changing.
No,
His attitude has to change. It's and sorry, I kind of cut you off, but
it's okay.
it's important to talk about because that's where my focus has been, and that's where my criticism has been in regards to the Carolina Panthers. It starts at the top with our owner David Tepper.
Yep.
Until he steps back, you've seen all the news with Deanna Rossini and all the stuff being put out about the Hunger Games mentality or culture that's been built with the Carolina Panthers. Until that is fixed and his meddling is done, uh, until that's over, the Carolina Panthers won't be good. I mean, he has to step back. I have a shirt that I created, a step back shirt with two P's, pun intended, step back, to take a shot at David Tepper. He has to take his paws off of the Carolina Panthers. He has to hire the right people, let them lead, and let them make the decisions. He's too far into the day-to-day operations on what the Carolina Panthers are doing. He doesn't have the football knowledge, and he's running it like a fan. He's running this team like a fan. And he needs to get people in place to actually make football decisions. And until that happens, we won't be good. So hopefully this is third crack at it. He fired Matt Rule, didn't work out. Frank Reich didn't work out, and now he needs whatever decision tree was made to make those decisions. He needs to reevaluate and get some football people in to help him make those decisions, and then step back and let those people go to work. And so yeah, but it starts there, and so I'm hopeful that he has his Jed York moment, right? And that's where my biggest play, or my biggest comparison with David Tepper is Jed York, right?
Sure.
Jed York has made very similar, plays like Tom Sula, all these guys, you can go through the history of the 49ers, and he had his moment. Hey, you can't fire owners, but I made the right decision. I hired John Lynch and Shanahan, and
That's
I
it.
gave them long-term
Yep.
long-term deals, and I got out the way. That's what needs to happen. That's what
Yep.
needs to happen. Until that happens, Carolina Panthers will be a bad football organization.
Yeah, it is, and that's kind of the way that I feel with my team as well. So you just hope that that's the case. That's all you can do because the owner is not going anywhere.
Nope.
Um, so the two most likely candidates out there, And I got to believe, I mean, I've been talking about these two guys for the past month or so, and I'm pretty sure that they are still the two biggest names, and that's Jim Harbaugh and Ben Johnson. And the question, of course, is first of all, is Jim Harbaugh going to come to the NFL? And then people are already talking about the Chargers and Belichick and Harbaugh being linked to the Chargers. All right, well, whatever. And then Ben Johnson is the top assistant. Everybody knows that. Does he feel he's ready to be a head coach, or is he looking for the perfect job? If you had a choice of either of those guys, or is there someone else out there that you have your eye on as a fan that you think would be a perfect fit here?
No, Ben Johnson is my top target. I think he's a Carolina guy. He's from Carolina. I think
That's good.
he was born in South Carolina, and then he went to high school in North Carolina. So he's a tried and true Carolina guy, and also
Perfect.
went to UNC. So I mean, it makes sense for him to be the guy. He knows the area. I think he would be a great fit. He's that young, innovative offensive mind. It plays right along with your Mike McDaniels, your Sean McVays, all these young, talented offensive coordinators that get these jobs and their offenses look great. And when you have to put Bryce Young in the best position to succeed, you have to get a young offensive mind, innovative offensive mind to do so. And I think Ben Johnson's the best guy. Now, do I like Harbaugh? Absolutely. I think Harbaugh would be a great selection as well. I'm not a big Belichick guy. I think when you compare what he's done without Tom Brady, it's just not good. And his draft picks and the GM moves that he's made, it's not good. So I'm not happy. I wouldn't be happy with the Bill Belichick. Although if you take Cam Newton's word for it, Cam Newton said if David Tepper had his way, Bill Belichick would be the guy. Just because got the Patriot way and all. I think I don't know. I hope that, to me, that would be Tepper not learning his lesson if he hired a Bill Belichick. I just don't think that's the right pick. I think that's just oh yeah, you get in the Patriot way and you think you're going to get multiple championships. Well, unless that comes with Tom Brady, I
Yeah.
beg to differ.
Well, you hope that
So
would be Bryce Young. That's what you're hoping for.
or that's the case, or
Yeah.
yes, but again, look what he's done with young quarterbacks, right? He's got Mac Jones up there. Can he develop those guys? I don't think so. I mean,
Sure.
he had several cracks at it. Zappy, so I don't think he's capable. I'm not saying the game is past him. I would like Belichick in like like an advisory role, where I say, all right, this is what this looks good. That maybe this is kind of the Patriot way. These are some ideas, but I wouldn't want him pulling the strings.
You know what?
Um,
As a Jet fan, when Parcells, and I think it's a good example, when Parcells came on board, really what it was more than anything as a fan was you got instant respect, and all of a sudden, all the bad habits and all the things that you were doing wrong just disappeared. And you got rid of all the bad players, the guys who really shouldn't be there if you want to win a championship and that kind of thing. So getting Belichick, and again, I don't see that happening. But all right, let's just say, because the Ben Johnson thing just seems too good to be true. The
yeah,
connections and
it
everything.
does. I think Ben Johnson is the ideal pick.
Yeah.
We tried to get him last year. I think kudos to Tepper. I got to tear him down a lot, but I got to give him props. He was on the target list last year. We did interview him. We tried to interview him twice, and then he made the decision to go back to the Lions. So I'm pretty sure that he was top of the list before he decided to go back. You know what I mean? So I got to give him props there. Just one more target, two more targets. I think we need to talk about Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator. I think he'd be a good guy as well. You've seen what he's doing with C.J. Stroud. Maybe he could sprinkle some magic onto Bryce Young. I think that's an under the radar type pick, but I think that's a pick that multiple Panthers fans are talking about. And also, you got to look inside. Is the answer already on the roster? I think maybe Evero should get an opportunity to interview for the job. He interviewed for the job last year. He's doing a fantastic job with our defense. I know it looks bad holistically. We're 2-13, but he has done an excellent job with our defense. I think he should get a crack at potentially becoming the head coach, but I doubt that happens because Tepper has already said he wants an offensive guy. So I doubt it happens, but you never know.
Yeah, that's the thing that is tough. And I know more than anybody as a Jet fan, because I think we've had one offensive head coach in the last 30 years. It's just very difficult. Like, for instance, like even right now, what's going on when your head coach is a defensive guy and something happens to your offense, it's like you're screwed because your head coach, he doesn't know anything about the offense. He wasn't brought here to run the offense. He was brought here to be the head coach, and he's a defensive guy. So you're hoping that your head coach hires the right coordinator, and that's very tricky when you bring in a defensive head coach. So that's I understand why most GMs or most owners want the offensive coach nowadays.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that defensive guys can't succeed. It's just I understand why they do it.
No, and it makes sense to get the offensive guy. I've been pounding the table for the offensive guy now. I didn't sign up for Frank Reich in that situation.
Yep.
Frank Reich was an offensive guy. That's not what we necessarily wanted here. But the offensive guy, if you look at the playoff teams, right, and you take a look at who's leading the team, and whether it's offensive mind or defensive mind, you're going to come up with a lot of offensive coordinators. And because this is an offensive game now, right, it's all about the offense. When you have a successful offense, the first person to get cherry picked off of your team is going to be your offensive coordinator, right? And so you need consistency and you need continuity. And the only way to build continuity on the offensive side of football is by having an offensive-minded coach. I just talked about the Texans, right? Bobby Slow, who's having success with C.J. Stroud, is going to get looks now because he exactly. So now you're going to have to revamp your offense, or you got to promote. Things are going to change, and now it's a trickle down effect. Now your C.J. Stroud has to learn a new offense potentially. So there's a trickle down effect. That's why the offensive mind is always a good one to stick with and keep, because it's easier to build continuity. Now the same thing goes for defenses, because it's true there too, because our defense is playing well right now. And one can argue that Evero is probably going to get a head coaching job somewhere else too, or at least get interviewed for it. And will our defense suffer? Most likely. But I would argue, I can make the argument that it's probably easier to rebuild the defense than it is an offense. And again, I'm just saying that as a layman fan. I don't know that to be fact. I'm just saying that. Just because that's what I think. Could I be wrong on that? Sure.
Well, you know what it is though, like you were just saying, is it's a lot easier to have continuity if you find the right defensive coordinator, because most defensive coordinators are not getting head coaching jobs. So they're more than likely going to stay there for a few more years, and you're not going to have to go looking for new coordinators. Plus, the offensive coordinator is the direct extension to the quarterback, and that is a major loss. You don't want to lose that guy. So therefore, you want to hire the head coach to be the guy like Ben Johnson. Hey, he's not going anywhere. So even if you're whoever he hires as a coordinator or quarterback coach, who cares? Ben Johnson's your guy anyway. He's not going anywhere. So
that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that helps me. That extends my argument, and I didn't even think about that. The fact that the defensive guys aren't getting the head coaching jobs, so they're sticking around. So that plays even more to my point. I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point.
So all right, let's now talk about free agency. And is there a particular, how's the cap situation? Just average, okay, normal?
Yeah, middle of the road cap. We can free up a lot of space. You know how these things go with avoided years, and I think there's a potential for us to free up a ton of space.
Okay.
But we've got some heavy hitters to take care of. I know you got the list pulled up. But at the top of that list, I mean, you got to make a decision on Brian Burns, right? Not that I just went on live earlier today and talked about the Brian Burns situation, because it's just a fantastic article released by Joe Person from The Athletic talking about his disappointing season. He bet on himself, and he basically lost the bet. Coming into the year, he won a $30 million contract, and he is not playing to that by any stretch of the mind. He's on a career low, basically, track for sacks, and it's not looking good. He's not being that dominant game changer that demands $30 million a year. He's not in the same breath as a Max Crosby or a T.J. Watt or all these other guys, Bosa's. He's not playing to that level. So there's an offer on the table for him to remain with the Carolina Panthers. Is he going to take that offer? I don't know. Or is he going to test the open market and try to get a deal done? Now, I think that we're going to franchise tag him and try to work something out. But that's the first big question mark that we have. Then it kind of goes from there. You got Frankie Louvu, who's playing amazing. He is playing top 10 within his position. I would be devastated if he went somewhere else. I would be devastated. He's in the same breath. And when you talk about Carolina Panthers, we always have had great linebacker play. You talk about Luke Kuechly. You talk about John Beeson. You talk about Dan Morgan. All these great linebackers. He is and Thomas Davis. He is playing up to that caliber. We got to keep him around. And then after that, you got Derek Brown, who's playing top five. He's a top five interior defensive lineman. Now we do have him on his fifth-year option next year, but you need to go ahead and get a long-term deal done with him. So those are the top three priority free agents that the Carolina Panthers need to re-sign next year. After that, you kind of got some onesie twosies, but those are the three guys I'm kind of taking. I'm re-signing.
All right, and I'm also popping up the depth chart on our lads. Obviously, the best depth charts online in the business.
Facts. I use it all the time. I
There
use
you
it all the
go.
time.
Updated 24/7, 365. So there you go. You can check it out there. And but yeah, but that the Brian Burns situation could turn out to be a good thing, though. Obviously for the Panthers, that he didn't have a big year. Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, maybe, but because I'm a Brian Burns fan, I like the guy. Like one thing he talked about in the Joe Person article is he doesn't like change. Like he doesn't, if you go back to his Florida State days, he didn't hit the transfer portal, which was a new thing at his time. He could hit the transfer portal. He stuck with the loser Florida State Seminoles at the time, right? He doesn't. He wants to be in Carolina, and I do. And to your point, it could be a good thing because we could get him at a cheaper deal. But at the same time, you want the guy to be happy here too. Like you want him to be. So I don't know, man. I think we got to get him. We got to get him back. I think he's had his best years when he had another edge rusher opposite of him, and that's the thing we've been dealing with recently. We haven't had a guy to play off of him, and if we can land that great edge rusher beside him, because his best year was with Hassan Reddick. When we had Hassan Reddick, he was a baller. That we had two guys with double-digit sacks, and that was a great year. And we haven't had that since. And so he needs a running partner. He needs a Robin. Until we get that, it's kind of what we're dealing with because he's getting double teamed.
Any hopes that DJ Johnson can turn into that guy?
Doubt it. And
Not a good rookie year then.
I kind of anticipated that when we drafted him. That was one of the disappointing picks that we picked, and we traded up to get him. Not a fan. He's not playing well. I think he's had some decent moments. He's a good run stopper. Like if you're looking for a guy to stop the run, solid, but does not have the pass rush, arsenal to be a good pass rusher, and he doesn't have that. He's not that. He's not going to be that, in my opinion. So,
all right. Well, let's take a look at the rest of free agency. So, might as well stick on defense. So, Gross Matos and Haynes. Is that it for these guys, or is it time for them to move on, or are you going to bring back one of these guys? Is it even worth talking about them?
Gross Matos is interesting because we haven't seen him play to the level he's playing. He's playing really well this year, actually.
Okay.
You're not asking him to be an elite pass rusher. You're asking him to play, the 5 tech and a 3-4. So he's playing really well in that position, right? Again, you got to remember we transitioned from a 4-3 to a 3-4. And him playing on the defensive end in that 3-4 has done him well. He's playing really good against the run. Is he going to land a major contract? No. So if you can get him back in a decent contract, I would re-sign Gross Matos. I think he's playing well. He's a decent part to this defense. Can he be replaced? Sure. But I would love to have him back to build some continuity. Marquise Haynes, no. I think Marquise Haynes, he's been hurt. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, and we just haven't seen that. He's shown some flashes in the past. He's a guy that I think is replaceable.
Yeah. So right now, who is considered your number 2 and 3 edge rushers?
I've been asking for that since Hassan Reddick left. We haven't answered that question. So I think we need to draft someone. We need to look into free agency to try to get a second edge rusher because it doesn't exist on the roster right now. Yeah. Amari Barno is intriguing. He's got the speed, but he's more of a special teams guy. And he had the pass rush chops just haven't clicked for him yet. So he's not it.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay. Then let's stick on defense because there's a few other guys. You mentioned Luvu. So you got Luvu.
Got to get him back. Got to have him back.
And there's no reason to think that he won't come back, right? I mean, he's not going to get big money on the market unless somebody falls in love with him.
He might. He is playing that well, dude. He's an underrated guy, man. He is very underrated. People don't see him, and maybe that he can continue to fly under the radar for our sake so we can keep him. But he is playing at a extremely high level, dude. He's playing really well. So I'm hopeful that we can keep him around. I do think he will have a market if he hits the open market.
Okay, and then there's also on the outside. Well, actually, in the deep end, you have a few guys there. So Shaq Griffin at corner and C.J. Henderson at corner.
We haven't. We just picked up Shaquille Griffin recently. We had some depth issues, so we haven't seen much of him.
Okay.
C.J. Henderson, I think his time here is about done. I'm a big C.J. Henderson fan, but he has not played to the level, the top 10 level. When we didn't draft him, the Jaguars drafted him top 10, but we traded for him, and he has not played up to the level. He's had plenty of opportunity to do so, and just hasn't done so. So I think his time here is up. I think he would be a decent depth guy, but I'm not gonna look to pay him an exorbitant amount of money to be a CB2. He's more of a CB3, CB4 kind of guy.
Okay. Troy Hill.
Troy Hill's getting up there in age. He's playing well. He's playing extremely well in this Israel defense that he's familiar with. We picked him up, brought him in this season. He's been playing really well, but he's up there in age. So, but I would definitely bring him back on a vet friendly deal.
All right. And the big question that we brought up and we needed to know what was going to happen with the new defense with Jeremy Chin. And now Jeremy Chin is a free agent. So
yeah, I mean, he does not have a role in our defense. Like he's barely playing.
Wow.
He's barely playing. He dealt with some injuries, and it's our defense has chugged along without him, and it's very very surprising to me. He has not yet hit that rookie year ceiling that he hit. It's just not it. I don't know what his role is. Anytime you hear Israel talk about him, they keep talking about the secret weapon. Oh, he's a weapon. We got to get him on the field more. But I think he's gonna play somewhere else, and I think he's gonna be very, very good when he plays somewhere else next year.
Yeah, maybe he just needs the right coaching staff that says, yeah, we're gonna put him right here, and that's exactly what we're looking for is that guy, and maybe that's exactly what he needs. Is
I don't see us bringing him. I don't see us bringing him back, and it's kind of unfortunate. I think he's talented.
Yeah.
But he's not playing many snaps. The snap share is not there. I don't see it.
Okay, and then also Sam Franklin.
Sam Franklin's a special teams guy, special team ace. We got to get him back. I think he's an exclusive rights free agent or a restricted free agent.
He's got a void deal here, so yeah.
But I think we'll bring him back. I think he's a key special teams guy, and he got some snaps at safety too. He's been playing well there too, so I think he definitely should be brought back.
Yeah, a lot of the guys on defense. Deshaun Williams back to the defensive line.
Yeah, I don't know. So we shuffled a lot of guys on the defensive line. I would probably, I don't know. These are kind of veteran guys, 1-year deal guys. I don't see why not. Neither here nor there with them.
Yeah, not a big deal. Okay, and then also you got Deion Jones, another just.
Yeah, he's been playing well. But veteran guy, I'm not sure what we do there with him as well.
Not a big deal.
I would probably try to find a younger version, but he's been playing well. I got to give him credit. He has been playing well.
Yeah, it looks like only one of the top. Actually, if you think about it, it looks like only 2 of your top 14 free agents are on offense, and 2 receivers. Well, the significant one, I guess, is DJ Shark.
Yeah, Chark. So Chark is an intriguing one because Chark is. He had a very good game against Green Bay. This is the best game he's played all season long. But prior to that, it's been very, very mid. He has been below mid, not playing very well. And I think that is due in part to scheme, not playing to his strengths. I don't know that he comes back. I think we can do better than Chark, but I also like where he's playing right now. If he can, end the season on a high note, maybe you bring him back, but I'm not too pressed. I think we can do better than DJ Chark, to be honest with you.
And then Chenault is also a free agent. He's injured right now, so
Chenault is injured. He's interesting. I think they had a role for him, but I don't know if the new offensive coordinator we bring in is going to have a role for Chenault. So I don't. It's going to depend on the offense we run. To be honest with you, Chenault, I don't see him as a key figure to keep around.
Yeah, injuries has been the story of his career, basically, even back in college, unfortunately. All right, so Let's now transition to the draft because we got an idea of the veteran players who may or may not be back. Well, first of all, are there any players that are not current free agents that you could see on that list soon? Cap casualties, things of that nature.
Oof. Cap casualties, man. That's a great question.
Thielen,
I
how's his contract?
Nah, I think Thielen is playing too well. He's a safety blanket for Bryce Young. Can't
Okay.
see him leaving unless we do him a favor and get him off this team. I don't see us moving on from Adam Thielen. I do. There's a couple of guys, man. I think Dante Jackson could be one. He is he's tough. He's a guy that I don't know that he's playing well. He's playing well this year, but I don't know that it depends on the new staff that we bring. It's so many question marks because I don't know who the new coach is going to be. So it's kind of difficult to project, given the system and we just don't know.
Yeah.
But just looking at top to bottom, I don't know. I think guys like Austin Corbett Austin Corbett is a key guy that for the offensive line, but has been injured a lot. I think he could be a cap casualty if we can address the offensive line in the draft and free agency. Ian Thomas may be a cap casualty. This guy I don't know how he even got extended in the first place because he is not playing up to any level of stretcher. I mean, he's a great blocking tight end, but I think we also have a great blocking tight end in Tommy Tremble. So I think Ian Thomas could be a cap casualty.
Now it says here. I
Hayden
don't know if
Hurst.
it says here he's got $7 million in dead money. That would not.
Yeah,
that's not good. So
yeah, it's not. But I mean, you could June 1 stretch that out.
Yeah.
But we've got to figure that. I don't know. There's with the way some of these contracts are structured, I don't know.
I know
who would
it's
be
difficult. Yeah.
It is difficult. It's difficult to find some cap casualties. Unfortunately, Miles Sanders is a guy I would like to move on from, but he is not because the way his contract is structured, it makes no sense to cut him.
Yeah, he's got $13 million in dead money.
Yeah, so it would be it'd be dumb to kind of cut him.
Yeah.
So it would
not a lot.
It just depends. It depends. If you June 1 cut them, you can make the room, but if not,
but no one significant. No one that just sticks out there and go, oh yeah, that guy's definitely look at his contract. Oh yeah, he's not coming back. They got to figure out a way to dump him. None of those guys.
Yeah, maybe Shaq, but Shaq is too. I think he's too important when he's healthy. When you pair him up with Luvu, I think he got a really good linebacking core. I don't see us moving on for Shaq. He's a leader on the team.
Okay.
Been around for a while, so he's one I would say, but I don't see us moving on from him. See, there's no obvious guys. I'd move on from.
All right, so let's try to break down then. And again, it's going to be difficult without the first round pick, but still, there's free agency. So let's start on offense. And does Dalton come back? No reason he doesn't, right?
Yeah, I think you bring back Andy Dalton. I think you got to have the veteran presence behind Bryce Young. So I don't see why you wouldn't bring back Andy Dalton.
Okay, Chuba. Again, we started with Chuba, so Chuba definitely you can live with him.
Chuba definitely. Yeah, definitely number one running back. I do think we need more of a power running back to go alongside him. Even if we do decide to keep Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, we still need the guy that's going to move the offensive line and move the power when it comes to short yard situations. We suck really bad when it comes to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and we need to get a power running back in that's going to move the power. So give us a power running back. To go in that rotation.
Yeah, and again, if we're thinking of Ben Johnson, then we're definitely thinking of a power running back because he's going to want to have someone like a David Montgomery or what's his name that left for Williams, I believe, who left for New Orleans, and how important those big guys were to his offense currently right now. Okay, so wide receiver, Mingo Marshall.
Marshall's out of here. Marshall hasn't been active in forever. He's been inactive, just a healthy scratch for like the past 5 weeks. He requested a trade early before the trade deadline. Does not want to be here. I'm sure we'll either release him or try to trade him again in the offseason. But yeah, I think he's going to be out of here. Mingo's getting better. The chemistry between him and Bryce Young getting better. Okay. But I think that's the key spot. We need to find some talent, top tier talent. We
Number
need to
one
get
wide receiver.
We need to get a wide receiver one immediately to help Bryce Young. And that's why I said we can do better than DJ Chark. I think Chark is great. Well, not great. He's good, but he's not great. We need to get a great wide receiver one. So when you think about guys like Mike Evans, T. Higgins, some of those guys that may hit free agency, those are the guys we need to go after. Now, the question is, do they want to come here? Probably not. But which is why
Never
we need to
know.
probably draft. We probably need to draft one at 33. Yeah, money talks.
Money talks.
But
Hey, Ben Johnson, Bryce Young, a little money.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'll
but
sign there.
Ben Johnson is different because money. There's no cap for coaches, right? So you can pay a
No,
coach whatever.
no.
There is a salary cap for players, and I don't know that we'll be able to spend an exorbitant amount of money on a wide receiver. We'll see, but we do need to get a wide
It's
receiver
important
one in
though.
the building.
Yes,
We need
Bryce Young
one to
needs
get
those
it.
guys. Yeah.
He needs a wide receiver one. So if we don't get one in free agency, which I do think we'll try, we need to go out and get one of the top wide receivers in the game that potentially may or may not fall to us in the second round because there's a lot of this. This is a deep wide receiver
Oh,
class.
yes, it
So if
is.
you get a guy like Troy Franklin or something like that, I would love to get that type of guy to come here in Carolina. And we need a guy that's going to be able to stretch the field, some speed, that somebody that can win with route running. That's what we need here in Carolina. We haven't had that here in a long, long time. Someone that's going to beat you with a route or beat you with just straight up speed. We haven't seen it, and that's what we need here in Carolina. So that's priority number one A, and I'm sure we're going to talk about 1B the next go around in the next
Okay.
position, but not, and
Well,
it's not tight end. If you want to
yeah,
talk
I was
about
just going to
tight
go to
end,
tight end
that
because
ain't it.
last year it was such a deep class as we know, and they didn't venture down that road. So
Mhm.
you would think all these guys coming back, Tremble and Thomas,
Yeah,
one, two next
no,
year.
so Tommy Tremble's got. I mean, Tommy Tremble's been playing very well.
Okay.
He's been playing well, but the guy that you didn't say is Stephon Sullivan. Stephon
Okay.
Sullivan, who I talked about I think we talked about Stephon Sullivan at length, one of our prior shows, and Stephon Sullivan has been that receiver threat at tight end that we need. Now he hadn't put up monster numbers, but he's getting targets, and I think that's going to translate, and it could translate if the new offensive coordinator comes in. They see that they have a guy that's going to create mismatches. He's a big guy, and I think that he's got speed. He can win. He's been playing pretty well. He's been getting a lot of targets. Took a major step this season. Between him and Tommy Tremble, I think we got answers at tight end. Now Hayden Hurst is still under contract, but I feel I don't know how he's got the concussions with the amnesia. I'm not sure where he's going to be in the offseason.
Who's that?
Hayden Hurst.
Oh
So we
yeah.
still got him.
Okay.
We still got Hayden Hurst.
Okay.
But Ian Thomas has got to go. Could we add to that room? Maybe, but that's not a premier position I'm looking to add to. It's the next group. This is what we
Okay.
really need to talk about.
I'm going to pop on the screen though, because this is why Arledge is also awesome. If you just click on the name of Sullivan, you go to the profile that they had when he came out in the draft guide, and you can see right here where it says the former top 10 wide receiver recruit evolved into an
Mm-hmm.
athletic, tools-rich tight end prospect that is going to be a bit of a project in the NFL. But again,
Mm-hmm.
the word project tells you that it's just going to take him a few years, and that's kind of where we are right now. That
And
maybe
project wise, he's right where I would expect him to be. He is right there, like he's developing every year. That he started to get the tool set right. He dealt with some injuries earlier this year and last year, and now starting to click with him. I think he could develop into a really really good, solid receiving threat. I'm not saying he's gonna be Darren Waller or anything like that, but he could be a decent tight end threat, and someone that Bryce Young could depend upon moving forward next season. So
all
I
right,
would build
cool.
upon that. There's no need for us to go out there and draft another tight end. Let's kind of work the project and develop this guy we've got on the roster.
I probably should have looked at the reserves before we moved into everything else because you mentioned, of course, Hurst. So, who else
Mhm.
is out for the year that would be considered a key player?
Oh man, we've put so many people there. Brady Christensen and Austin Corbett, both of those guys are on IR, on season-ending IR. And those are the two question marks because when we talk about the next position group, we talk about the offensive line. That's where we need help. That the offensive line group is struggling mightily, and specifically, it's the interior group. The interior group. the center, the guards. That's where we need help because Bryce Young is a shorter quarterback. He can't no quarterback wants pressure in his face.
Sure.
We've been getting destroyed on the interior. So we've played like 8 guys at right tackle this season. So we need to find some long-term um, fixes there at the interior, the guard positions. Brady Christensen ended last year on IR. He's on IR this year. Austin Corbett, same thing. Ended the season on IR last year, and he's on IR again this year.
Can't
You
count on
got
him.
to find long-term solutions. You can't count on them. You got to hit the draft. You got to hit free agency. You got to find some long-term solutions there. So I'm moving on from those guys. To be honest with you, I'm not saying I'm not saying that they can't come back and be healthy, but
Sure.
I'm not banking on those guys. You got to find some long-term solution there.
And Zavala, is he
Um,
a potential candidate if he's healthy?
no,
No.
he was one of the guys that that was trying to replace both Christensen and Corbett. Didn't work out. He's not ready yet. He's more of a project as well.
Okay.
Um, so who else is
But
on that
definitely
list?
guard. So,
Guard for sure.
okay.
We got to get a guard, and
Bozeman's
I would
okay
prefer
at center?
but he needs so with all the inconsistency around him, right? I think that's attributing to why he's struggling as well.
Okay.
He can't trust the guys next to him. I like Bozeman. He is struggling this year. I gotta be fair. If I'm gonna be, I gotta. This is why people love PNP because I try to call out people fairly. Even though I like Bozeman. He's been on our show before, but I gotta call him out. It's not been a good season. It's not been a good season, but I will attribute that to the guys playing around him. It hasn't been good at the guard, so just not good.
Okay.
Not good.
So, interior offensive line is definitely
That's
two guys. Definitely bring in two players, two starting caliber
one.
players.
Yeah. So when you talk about our top needs, 1A receiver, 1B interior offensive line, specifically guards, or if you can get a tackle that's very good. Like let's hypothetically speaking, if a tackle, a good tackle, were to fall to us in the second round, I would take that tackle, specifically a left tackle, give him some count, give Icky some competition, right? Because Icky's been okay, not great there at left tackle, and then you move Icky into guard, and then he would be an elite guard, and there you kind of got a problem solved. So you knock two birds with one stone. So I would try to find a tackle, a high end caliber tackle that you can play. And if he can't play good tackle, swing him in the guard, see if he can play there. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm looking for in at pick 33. If there's
Okay.
not a good wide receiver there.
All right. I like it. All right. Now, let's go on to defense. This is the strength of the team right now. So,
Yep.
and a lot's going to depend, of course, if Evero is still here, because if he's not,
Mm-hmm.
then it could be a lot. I mean, what we're talking about here could just be completely different than what we'll talk about with a different defensive coordinator and a different scheme. But let's just, we've already talked about a lot of these guys in free agency. So, what would be
Yep.
considered the biggest need if they stick with the 3-4?
I think we still need to find another edge rusher. We've got to find another a pass rusher. We need to find a pass rusher in free agency. I don't understand how we let Clowney, get signed elsewhere because he would have been a guy that I would have put opposite of Brian Burns. But we need to find somebody that can play opposite of Brian Burns and sign Brian Burns at the same time. We got to get him back.
Yeah.
So you got to you got to lock up two pass rushers or try to find a pass rusher in the draft. Other than that, I'm going to locate another cornerback. I think we need cornerback depth because, JC was hurt earlier this year, right? He's been dealing with a ton of injuries. I can't say I could trust him either from an injury perspective, but when he's on the field, boy, is he elite.
Okay.
He's elite when he's on the field. But I don't know if I can trust him to play all 17. You know what I mean? So you got to find another cornerback. Outside of that, man, maybe a linebacker. I think the defense, man, I trust Ishiro Ero. If you can keep him around, I trust, even with all the injury we dealt with this season, you can put some guys back there that are project and still play. I'll give you an example. One of the guys we brought in this year, Kamu Grugier-Hill, we brought him in as a guy that was a free agent, and we didn't know what we had.
Yeah, he's a special teamer. That's what he normally is.
Bro,
yeah.
In training camp, this dude had an excellent training camp, excellent preseason, and he played very well. And when he got, because again we had some injuries, Shaq Thompson goes down, he gets thrusted into starting lineup, and he's playing well, right? So I think you can kind of get some of those second tier guys in
Veterans.
this
Yeah.
scheme because that's how good the scheme is. So
Okay.
if you're gonna cheap out, that's where you do it on the defensive side of football.
Okay.
But you can't cheap out on Louvu, Burns,
Sure.
and Brown. You got to get those guys back. Once you get those guys back, you can start to kind of cherry pick where you want to get some other and where you want to cheap out at, because that's where I
Okay.
would do it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially when you don't have enough draft picks, and you have to wait another year maybe to replenish those picks. Then maybe
Yeah.
that's the way to go about doing it. Is just bringing back guys like Deion Jones and Grugier Hill and guys
Yep.
like that,
Yep.
and then sign Luvu, and then okay, we won't worry about the inside linebacker situation this year. Uh, let's just worry about edge rushers. All right, defensive line. So Derek Brown, is he still the man up front?
Absolutely. Derek Brown is playing top 10 as a position, top 5, I would argue. He's playing absolute monster. So you got to get him back. That's where he's the best player. I would argue that Derek Brown is the best player on the team. That's how good he is. And so you start there. You got to get him back. He's under contract. He's
Yep.
playing on it. That would be his fifth year option. So not too concerned about getting a long term deal done with him, but you got to get that done.
All right. And then as far as the rest of the defensive line, we talk again, Williams is a free agent, but Shy Tuttle, Wormley's a free agent, but some of these guys are just guys. Is there anyone
Yeah.
else on this defensive line that you want to bring back or that needs,
Yeah.
who'd that be?
There's one guy, Nick Thurman, who's playing. He's been playing really well these past 2 games. He's more of a rotational guy,
Okay.
but we have him as an exclusive rights free agent next year. Definitely want to bring him back, and I don't see that as being a problem. But he's definitely elevating, playing up to a very good level, and I attribute that to Derek Brown. Like Derek Brown's playing so well, he's elevating guys around and freeing up other guys. Again, if you can bring back Ghost Matos, sure, but I would, you know, I would probably focus on a guy like Nick Thurman, bringing him back, add him to that rotation.
Does he play nose with Tuttle?
It's more of a defensive end,
He is. Okay.
Tuttle's the nose, and so yeah.
So you think that they could pretty much, that's sort of like the inside linebacker group. They could live with what they've
Yep.
got up front for another offseason.
Agree. Yes,
Okay.
I think you can maybe draft some guys, get some guys developed, but I think, and Evero proved that because we shuffled a lot of guys on that interior defensive line. We shuffled a ton of guys. We let go of Marquand McCall. We let go of Bravion Roy. We let go of a lot of guys and shuffled guys until we brought in guys like LeBron Ray, Nick Thurman. So we brought in guys and we've done it successfully. So I think we can continue that trend going into next year.
We did not talk about Shaq Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
So where does he fit with the team?
I think he's, again, as a veteran, he's one of the defensive leaders. I think he's kind of the heartbeat of the defense. He got hurt earlier in the season. I think like first game of the season he got hurt
Okay.
and went out. And so hopefully we get him back healthy. When he's on the field, he plays pretty well. I'm excited to see him and Luvu on the field together along with Derek Brown. And we've got the guys, man. The
Okay.
defense I'm not concerned about the defense, but
Okay.
bring him back. I think he's under contract next year. I think that's the
Yes.
last year's deal next year. So, I think if healthy, you got to bring him back.
And he's on the
Very
inside,
good player when
right?
healthy. Inside, yep, interior
Okay.
linebacker.
All right. So that just boasts the point that the inside linebacker unit is fine. Okay.
Yep.
And then safety. Bring back Woods and Bell.
Yeah, that's a good tandem, man. Those guys are playing well. Xavier Woods is actually playing really well. He actually, it's a funny thing, man. He had stone hands. It could never get an interception. Made a critical interception in the Falcons game that sealed the game, sealed the win for us. In the worst conditions you could possibly make an interception. It was raining. It was like cold, rainy. You in a game in the conditions where you think he would drop the football,
Right.
he actually caught it.
Yeah.
So shout out to Xavier Woods. I would bring him back. He's playing really well. Von Bell also playing well. Those guys, when healthy, Von Bell, he's been dealing with some injuries, but when healthy, those guys are really, really good.
But besides Horn, Woods, and Bell, it sounds like, unless there's another name or two you want to throw in there, it sounds like that there could be a lot of other change because you mentioned Jackson and Hill. You got Shaq Griffin, Chin, Henderson. So those are all guys that may not even be
Yeah.
here next year.
Yeah, that's why cornerback is a need. Like it's not a major need, but if you can land on one late and develop them, I think you need to focus on that because Dante Jackson's he could be here next year, but he could also be one that you move on from as well if you can land a guy.
Okay.
Troy Hill, I think you can bring back on a veteran deal. He's up there in age, but he's playing really well. I gotta be honest, he's playing at a high level, so he's a guy I would bring back on a 1 year deal to kind of solidify that cornerback room. We also got some guys on the practice squad that I think can develop. Guys like what's my guy's name?
Oh, Jamie
Um,
Robinson.
well, Jamie Robinson.
We didn't talk about
He's been
him.
playing well. We haven't played.
Yeah.
He hasn't played. He hasn't played much. He hasn't played much at all. But I think we got some guys. Oh man, where are my guys? Man, are they not on the so we got a guy like Lamar Jackson, Matthias Farley. These guys, I think they could develop into something as well. Um,
Yeah,
so
because
I don't know. We'll
are there
see.
guys on the practice squad that we should be mentioning at all that could be
Not really.
part of the
Maybe
team next year?
when
No.
when you talk maybe offensive line, you got Deontay Brown. I think he could fit at a guard position. Gabe Jackson is a guy that has been playing. They've been elevating him to the main roster these past couple of games and playing pretty well.
Okay.
I would probably bring him back. My guy, I'm a huge fan of Tariq Cohen. Probably won't see him this year. Dealt with some injuries coming back. I would like to bring him back as well as a special teams guy. But um,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you got Jackson,
that's
Brown,
about
and
it.
Dorenzo. I know from Rutgers.
Yep.
But yeah, those guys are all at guard on the practice squad. Okay, so then and then the only other guys we didn't mention in the secondary were Deshaun Jamison and Sam Franklin Jr. So
Yeah, Sam Franklin's a special teams guy.
okay, yeah,
He got to come back, and he's a very good depth piece at safety when you need him. I know Von Bell went down, or Xavier Woods went down, and he plugged in at free and played really well.
okay,
Had a pick six, a 99-yard pick six of two. So he's pretty solid
yeah,
when you need him.
those are nice. And special teams. So Pinheiro had a good year, right?
Uh,
Eh?
uh, the timing might be bad on that good year because
Oh, the
he missed
timing. He's not. He
look,
hasn't been playing well
he
lately.
missed a couple of field goals in this Packers game, which probably cost us the game.
Oh, okay.
So he's hit or miss. He's had a couple of game winners too. Kickers are
Yeah.
like they're head cases. You know what I mean? When you got a good one, you keep them, but when they're bad, they kind of go downhill from there. So we'll see
So
how he ends the season, and if he ends the season well, you bring him back. If not, it is what it is. And we got Hecker too. Hecker is the greatest punter of all time. So we'll take Hecker. He's been doing a fantastic job for us.
return game okay, or you need somebody a bit more?
Actually, it's funny. I should have brought this up when you talked about wide receivers, but Amir Smith Marset is one of our return guys, and he's getting more looks in the wide receiver game as well.
Okay.
He's a guy that we can build upon. He's a restricted free agent going into next year. He's a guy that I would like to see more of in the actually wide receiver game. He's been getting some good plays, like reverse plays, get some jet
Yeah.
sweeps, some trick play. He's been playing, but he's been getting more and more involved or integrated into the offense. So special teams wise, we're fine. Raheem Blackshear is our kick returner, very good kick returner. So I'm good with special teams returners. We need to bring all those guys back.
Yeah, Smith Marset had he had a really exciting career at Iowa. I remember him as a returner,
Yes, sir.
somebody that
Yes, sir.
yeah. So he was somebody you always like, it's an interesting player, and then he was what the Panthers traded for him just before the
Traded a
season
seventh
began.
round pick. Yeah, I think we swapped sevenths with the Chiefs to get him.
Okay.
And so it was very, very minor deal. We got him, and we have him under contract, restricted free agent next year. So obviously, if somebody wants to come get him, they got to go through us. So listen, he bet on himself too. Got to give him props for this because he was vocal on Twitter about not playing, and he was frustrated. And once Frank Reich got up out of here, once they fired Frank Reich, he's starting to get more opportunities with this offense. And again, on the ground with these jet sweeps, these reverse plays, he's getting more integrated. And I think he had a touchdown last against the Packers. So he's playing well.
Yeah. Maybe you find the right coach like a Ben Johnson that can
Exactly.
take
You never
advantage
know.
of someone like
I
him.
think he would be he would be perfect in a system in Ben Johnson's system.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Our lad said here he's an electric playmaker with the ball in his hands, excels at evading tacklers and changing direction while moving at full speed. Excellent vision and plays with a chip on his shoulder. He could be a dangerous slot receiver over time if he can clean up his route running
Man,
and get his hands stronger.
hey, I don't know who wrote that, but it's like spot on. Did you write that?
No, that would be
I was gonna say
top
because
scouts.
whoever wrote that was spot on. I agree with everything, and that's funny because that is written from from a scout perspective coming out of college.
Yep.
That description is spot on. He could be a very good slot receiver if he develops with his route running. His hands are solid. He's not dropping footballs like that. You can't. Well, he's dropped a couple of he muffed a couple of punts,
he's got
but
to clean
no
that up.
really
Yep.
turnovers. But yeah, I think he could. It's spot on. With the ball in his hands, he's electric. And so when you talk about, he's a guy that makes Shenault expendable.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't pay a guy that's always getting injured anyway. And Shenault, unfortunately, just has not taken advantage of his opportunity. But, hopefully he'll get healthy, find a right spot. But he's not going to make a lot of money in this league any longer. All right. So as we recap, we've got ourselves a definite need as a number one wide receiver. We got to increase the speed as far as the receiver as well. So a number one receiver with speed would be big. Definitely add at least 2 interior offensive linemen, preferably guards, but also maybe a guard that has a little bit of center experience. You can push Bozeman. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Edge rusher to play alongside opposite Brian Burns, and bring in another corner, somebody to add depth, maybe a number 2 or a number 3. Chances are you probably don't bring back Jackson and Hill. Maybe you do. And if you do, then maybe the number 2, 3 corner becomes a depth guy that could eventually replace those guys.
Exactly.
Maybe in 2025. So there you are. There you have it. That's our early look at the Panthers off season, Carolina Panthers. It's again, the season hasn't even ended, but Rashad and I, we know how it feels to start talking about the draft when the season's still going on.
And real quick, that was an excellent recap. Excellent recap, by the way. But the first thing you got to mention is the GM and head coach.
That's right.
We got to get that right.
Right.
Once we get those 2 right, everything else will fall into place. My hope, and I just want to put this on record. My hope for head coach is Ben Johnson. My hope for GM is Ray Agnew, who is the assistant GM for the Detroit Lions right now. So if you can bring those 2 Detroit Lions to the Panthers, I think you would have a successful season. That's my hope. There are some other GM candidates that we have on the roster that could also, supplant Scott Fitterer. But I think it's important that you bring in your head coach and GM together, and they have maybe some experience working together, or at least know what each other's plans are and can work together and can coexist. Because right now we've done the opposite of that. We brought in Scott Fitterer, or we've had Marty Herney, who brought in Matt Rule, and then you fired Marty Herney, then brought in Scott Fitterer, then Matt Rule gets fired, then you bring in Frank Reich, and then Frank Reich gets fired, Scott Fitterer stays. So we need to just let go. And I think Scott Fitterer got a raw end of the deal. Like, I think he's a decent GM. I think he gets a lot of flack. I think there's a lot of things above him that force some of the decisions, especially in the quarterback. Like, I think David Tepper's calling a lot of those shots. I think some of the things he's done has been okay. The drafts could be better, but I think he's a decent GM. But I also think at the same time, when you bring in a new head coach, you need to bring in a GM alongside this guy so that they can work together the same time.
I like it.
So that's what I'm
bringing
rolling
in
with.
Agnew and Ben Johnson together is a great plan. And what's good too about bringing in the guys from Detroit is that they figured out a few years ago how to finally build a front office, and they did a tremendous job. And it starts at the top, it trickles down, and they've got key guys and all over the organization that really all the hires they made, and veteran guys that have been there in the NFL with tons of scouting experience, and they really have done it right. And that's the reason why the Lions are winning. It's no magic. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden Detroit's winning because of, wow, is it freaky? No, it took time. Yeah. They developed it starting from the front office down. And the fact that you bring guys in from that kind of culture would be perfect because they know how to do it. They know how it was done
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And I
And,
think
it,
that,
yeah, and Brad Holmes. Kudos to Brad Holmes, who is a North Carolina A&T alumnus, which is my school, my college. He's the current GM of the Lions. And listen, they've done an excellent job. Like if you to be able to turn around the Lions,
yeah,
that's a fantastic. They won the division, and I know I forgot the guy we did the show with earlier in the year.
Jeff Risdon.
But
Yes.
I know he's elated through the moon.
Yes.
But and kudos to them because if I wasn't so loyal to the Panthers, and if I would, that would be my second team.
There you
Like the
go.
Lions have done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Maybe something with the Cats, I don't know. But the Lions have done a fantastic job. And again, they have Jared Goff. He's not like a world beater. Like they're building the team the
That's
right way.
right.
They started up front. They started in the trenches. You got Penei Sewell. You got Aiden Hunch. All these guys, man. It's just they did an excellent job. So kudos to the Lions. I need some of that lion sauce right here in Carolina. Bring me Ray Agnew, Ben Johnson. I would be a happy
There
camper.
you go. And by the way, that's what we were just talking about. That's what the fans in Detroit, that is their biggest worry is that, when Ben Johnson leaves, what do we do?
Exactly.
So that's
Exactly. But kudos to Dan Campbell. They've done a good job, man. But Dan Campbell, is he offensive or defensive guy?
He's an offensive guy. He's a tight end guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's a tight end. That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's kind of a maybe he's imparted some of
He's
that
a
stuff.
disciplinarian. That's what he
Campbell's.
is.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you need.
So-
Sort of like Harbaugh, special teams guy, disciplinarian. It doesn't always have to be the sexy offensive guy, but hey, you know what? If you get one of them, they're not, because the thing is, it's Ben Johnson and that's it. There's no one else out there as far as exciting coordinators that you can go, oh man, we got to get that guy. That's it. It's Ben Johnson. That's all. That's all there is.
Some are saying that the OC quote the pseudo OC for the Dolphins. I think it's Frank Smith is his name, I believe. I think some people are saying that just to kind of get some of that Mike McDaniels.
Yeah, they always want
system.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I'm not buying that, but
I know.
I haven't
It's
seen
a
it
risky.
enough yet. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. Yeah, that's super risky.
Yep. That's the thing. That's why it's not so easy. That's why people, let's fire this guy and go to that. Sometimes you got to give it time. Not that the Panthers need to give it time, but other teams and organizations, it's not always greener on the other side. So the grass is not always greener on the other side of especially everybody's always thinking, what's this? Now look, Frank Wright, I understood, even though he didn't last a year, make the move. Got to make it. Bad move. Okay, let's move on. Great. Excellent. But yeah, there are other teams and organizations that need to be patient. Panthers are not one of them. Hopefully they find the right mix, and if they can hire these two guys, and that's the case, and of course Bryce Young at quarterback, and we'll talk more about him next time we talk in the offseason, because we'll talk more about your feelings on him as a rookie and all that. I do have to ask you, because the rumors have been hot and heavy all offseason, really all during the season, I should say, regarding the fact that Frank Reich actually wanted to draft C.J. Stroud, and he didn't get his guy. I should ask you. Is that the case?
I don't think so. I think that maybe there was some folks in the building that did want C.J. Stroud. And you maybe, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean,
it's
the
not
rumors,
really
I hear the same rumors you are.
Cut and dry, black and white.
Yeah,
as people.
it's not.
Say.
It's not.
Okay.
I think that if you listen to David Tepper and what he said, they were all in the room. They all came to consensus that Bryce was the guy. I don't know. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter at this point, to be honest with you, because Bryce is here. And Bryce, listen, Bryce, he's dealt with a lot, and I'm surprised we didn't even talk. I know this is about the offseason. But Bryce, listen, Bryce has done an excellent job considering the circumstances. The circumstances are not ideal for a rookie quarterback. Your head coach, the guy that drafted you, is fired. You changed systems a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you already dealt with two offensive coordinators now. You haven't even played a full season.
Offensive line injuries.
The offensive line shuffled. The offensive line has been garbage for the most part. But I want every Bryce hater. And again, I don't want a victory lap over one game. But if you want to go back and see what Bryce Young could be under ideal circumstances, take a look at that Green Bay game.
Yeah.
Where he put 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was dropping dimes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not saying he's going to do that every game.
Well,
he's still going to take some lumps. But what he showed me in that game is that he has it.
It's there.
He has.
It's
It's
there.
there.
Yeah.
It's there, right? And he's had two fourth quarter comebacks, right? The two wins that we have had,
There you
they've been
go.
fourth quarter comebacks,
Yeah.
right? Both of them, he had to drive down the field and put us in position to win. Even in the Packers game, we were driving, bro. We almost came back to win that game, and that's on the back of Bryce Young. He has it. He can
Time
do
ran
it.
out. Yep.
You upgrade the weapons, you upgrade the offensive line, you get a good coordinator that's going to play to his strengths and put him in the best position to succeed, and you're going to have something in Bryce. So we're next year. I think it's gonna be a development year. I think it will be much better than this year. We'll win more games than we won this year. I think it'll be like a mid 8-8 or 8-9, whatever it is, season next year. But then 2025, that'll be the year. 2025 will be the Panthers' year, and that's what we have to think about it. We can't we levy these expectations. The Panthers, and again we're so frustrated because we've dealt with David Tepper and
I
his
know that.
nonsense
Yeah.
these past 6 years. We're frustrated. But when there's a new coach, a new system that comes in, we have to give it time to
Yes.
work. So even next year, if it doesn't look great coming out the gates, let's give it a little bit of time. The coaches are coming in, they're getting used to their guys. They're going to be playing with a lot of guys that they did not pick, and I think that's a lot of the Panthers' issues, right? When you have constant head coach change, constant scheme change, you have guys playing with or you have a coach coaching guys that
Yeah.
he didn't pick.
Yep.
So you gotta coach to the guys you don't want or necessarily want. You gotta just deal with. And so that's part of the problem. Let these guys get their guys in here. And that's why we need David Tepper to exercise some patience to let a guy coach and figure it out. Right? Give him a 6-year deal. Give him at least 3 years in reality, right? To
Guaranteed.
build it
Yeah.
along.
Guaranteed
Yeah,
money.
give him 3 guaranteed years to build it and then see what happens from that point. So
That's why that
that's what I
decision,
got.
as you said, it's good that you brought that up when I was going over the recap because that is true. It all starts with who they hire to run the organization, to pick the players, and of course to be the head coach. That's going to be the biggest decision that this team is going to make in the offseason. And
Agreed.
hey, I wish you the best of luck that you get your man. It seems like it's too good of a combination for it not to work out. You know, Tepper's got the money. I can't imagine Ben Johnson says this is what I want. He's not going to get it. So it's just up to Ben Johnson. You pretty much got to believe at this point. So
It's up to him.
yeah,
It's up to him and whether he believes in Bryce and wants to work with Bryce and wants to work with David Tepper. I think when he goes in that interview, and I think he needs to listen to what Kyle Shanahan did when he went to the interview with Jed York. He told the truth. You have to tell David Tepper the truth. We suck because of you, and we need you to step back and let me do my job.
there you
I'm
go.
serious. I'm
I
so
like it.
serious.
Sure.
He needs that brutal honesty. He needs somebody that's going to step up to him and tell him the truth. He needs a reality check. David Tepper needs a reality check, and so until that happens, somebody needs to hold him accountable. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Rashad, great job as always. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you again, of course, once the season's officially over. And then maybe our next conversation will be at the time. Well, look, if Ben Johnson becomes the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers, you can be rest
Yeah,
assured we'll be
schedule the
talking.
interview. Schedule the interview the next day, so I
Yeah.
can say I told you so.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
Hey, good luck because I know how important that is, and appreciate it
Yep.
as always. And by the way, the podcast, the Panther Nation Podcast, we'll have a link, of course, in the description of this video. You are airing. Is it daily?
Well, almost, sort of. So basically, what I do every Tuesday night, Dave and I go live. That's our scheduled program, 8 o'clock Tuesday nights.
Tuesday
And
nights.
then if we have some news that pops up, I do go live on Monday mornings.
Okay.
Excuse me, on the morning. So at 9:30, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. It just depends if there's news to talk about.
Okay.
So I do have a little morning show that I do. So it's just kind of that's why it's important to hit the notification bell. You never know when I'm going to go live. You never know when it happens. Just hit the notification bell and tune in because it's always a great show. I always tell the truth. I always hold people accountable. And just remember, Rashad is just a fan. I'm a fan at the end of the day. I'm no analyst. I'm not a professional. I just do this because I'm a fan. I'm a fan with the mic. So remember that.
And you're also an OFN NFL insider.
Oh yeah, I am an insider. I forgot about that. Put some
Don't
respect on
forget
my
that.
name. I am an insider.
That's
Yes,
right.
I am an
See?
insider. I
Says it
need
right there
that.
on the screen. Our lads, OFN Insiders. You're the man. Thanks, Rashad.
I appreciate that.